OpenAI released ChatGPT in November 2022. In the 3 years since then, people have gone from looking up errors on Stack Overflow to literally having a conversation with their Google search results. Yo, dude!
Relax, bro. Nothing else matters. Welcome to Dev Dispatch, where we break down the latest tools in tech and how they're changing the way we build. So, LLMs are the first resort. You don't search, you ask. The context window of models like GPT-4 and Claude are so massive right now that it's like hiring a temporary hyper intelligent intern that you can just spin up instantly on demand.
Of course, like this year, the Gemini 2.5 Pro was released, the preview version of it. That has the biggest context window ever in any mod, 1 million tokens. DeepSeek also claims to have the same, but then again, DeepSeek is a little bit iffy.
Yes, so these models also have RAG integrated into them. So they are able to analyze your entire repository first before actually generating any code. So it does not only generate single features, it scaffolds entire functions.
Right. So just like that Firebase Studio by Google, you can connect an entire GitHub repo, and then you can actually make architectural changes instead of just going code by code and making changes, debugging errors. You can actually shift the paradigm of an entire project just by connecting it. That is actually a web-based version. It's not even like a downloadable software.
Yeah, so now here's the truly revolutionary stuff, the GitHub Spec Kit. So the GitHub Spec Kit is a new release by Git that is also a really enhanced model that can really analyze all your repositories.
Right. I think it was released last week. Right? Yes. Yeah. So GitHub Spec Kit basically is the boon for white coders like you and me. So what GitHub Spec Kit generally does is instead of just giving it vague prompts like, okay, make me a login API, or let's say make me a Flutter app, like vague prompts like we used to use in our initial days. Instead of doing that, we would be giving more spec-driven prompts. Like, okay, I'm going to define inputs. I'm going to define outputs. Like these are the things the software is supposed to take in as input. These are the outputs I use, and whatever the constraints are. Right. So specification of the software will be defined in the spec kit, and then that it is basically a way to streamline the creativity of the AI one.
Yes. So instead of these are new cheat codes that we can implement in vibe coding when we use these AI models, where we won't have to sit and prompt the model to again and again generate certain functions. We can just save our best context windows and repaste them in every model depending on our usage. And we can also make sure that we don't add any passwords or any encryption files into the model, because that is a little bit of a hazard, because these AI models are quite smart right now.
Of course, they're smart, but they're not that smart either, because there is still, like, it's been 3 years now since we've had AI in general, and models are still known to be engaged with like hallucinations and like really strong hallucinations. Just yesterday, I was facing a problem with an Apple in-app purchase, and that took me literally 13 hours and exhausted almost half of my premium requests on Copilot trying to fix that. And the actual problem was libraries are being deprecated, right? And since all of these AI models are trained on the existing data on the internet, that's the breakage point, the lack of data on the internet. So lack of documentation wasted my 13 hours yesterday. But then again, about the safety, the passwords and stuff like that, we have to be careful, because now we have things like NCB servers, right? They have root access to the terminal, to the software, and we have to be very careful about the permissions we give, right? Because you and I in our early days have accidentally wiped databases, right? And it only is natural for AI to make same kinds of mistakes because it will. So we have to make sure that we don't allow it to do that. So we have to be careful about what permissions we give. We have to be careful about what API keys we give because, these API costs are a lot. And more than that, since we're on the topic of MCP, what a revolutionary technology, right? If you want an AI to do considerably everything for you related to a software, that includes installing new software, installing libraries, and creating workspaces, creating virtual environments on a server, it should be given the root access. But there are concerns regarding that. Like, what if it wipes out everything? So we have to be very careful as to what kind of permissions we give them. And there are no laws. Like currently, we don't have any IP laws. We don't have any copyright laws in terms of AI. Not like any, but like generated content, it's still in dispute whether it's a copy, it's a old property or not. Right. So this is a whole new realm that we're entering as a civilization, to be honest. And we have to figure out how to navigate through it.
Yes, when you're on the topic of wiping databases, there was a recent tweet by a developer who said that Replit actually wiped the entire database. It was a recent issue where Replit got sued, and the founder of Replit mentioned that it was a mistake and it should not happen again. So these are things that are quite dangerous. That's happening. It's kind of scary. So what do you think about that?
Well, I think the years and years of best practices that we've had in the realm of developing, those are evolving rapidly. So I think in the couple of months that we've been using AI for our coding, we have come up with a few things. I'm sure you have as well. I know I have. First thing is to save your prompts. Yes. Save your prompts, and version control is your best friend, because if you are using AI for one particular feature or one particular project in general for long enough time, it will start to hallucinate. It will try to pass by some, weird code. It will try to sneak past you. Not intentionally, obviously. It's just an infrastructure of law, right? So for that reason, every time you fix something, make a comment, let it be known that, yeah, this feature is fixed at this then proceed. Because I have had so many, a cycle of changes of switching between 4 changes, because every time I fix something else, the thing that I just fixed broke, right? So Git is a honest to God best friend. Second thing, prompts, do save prompts. Just open Notepad, paste the prompt, because it will come at least. Just take my word for something else that you might have covered. What I'm doing.
So yeah, we can classify these things about saving prompts and version control and being safe with your API credentials, API keys, and your database access routes. All of these things could be considered as new best practices after the introduction of AI into coding, right?
As far as we're talking about the best practices, we don't have a definite direction for it. This is all you and I coming up with this best practices, the list of things, the do's and don'ts, the never wins. These are things we have come up with our own practice, right? Nobody teaches us this stuff. Why? Because nobody knows this stuff. We are on literally the front line of learning this, right? I know it feels very hubristic to sit here and talk like we're the front line, but we kind of are. As a generation, we are the first test run of the age of AI, right? So we have to figure out what will be the best coding practices moving forward.
Yes. So we can say that now the kind of coding that we are used to is not exactly no code, but it is less code, right? So we use these LLMs and we give it constraints, we give it inputs, outputs, and we ask for the architectural output that we desire. And these models are able to build all of these features plus the tests for it, right? So there is not much implementation of coding in these processes, but there is an idea of understanding what exactly you want from the model that you are using. So, what would you classify the importance of that as?
Well, you see, that's exactly what vibe coding is. Because the whole manual typing of the code has been completely revolutionized into prompting, which kind of makes anybody a coder, which again, as a consequence, really infuriates the actual coders, right? Because these white coders are hated everywhere. Why? Because the real coders, the people who have actually spent their lives writing code by hand. Or vibe coding could be interpreted as more of an art, because the manual coding is being done by your LLM, and what you're doing, you're designing everything. If you have good enough technical knowledge, you can actually design a business logic that is efficient enough and secure enough, and then the whole code writing just takes care of itself. That is exactly what's happening with the content generation world entirely. So they're using AI for generating audios, translations of audio in videos, generating videos themselves, and generating pictures. AI generated art is apparently a new thing. So also, just since we're speaking about this, the whole content generation using AI, don't you feel like it's a little bit too detectable? It's uncanny, right? On that note, that feeling that you get looking at AI generated visible or audible content, that's called the uncanny valley. You can always sort of tell that a picture or a video or an audio is AI generated because it doesn't quite feel human like. It could be actual words out of a human male mouth, but they still feel weird, right? So that is actually a theory of uncanny valley, that it's actually a graph of experiences experienced by people when they are subjected to real content and AI generated content. So the dip shows the uncanny valley. That's where people go like, weird, right? So especially the voice models right now these days, Sesame AI and Bland, they're actually surpassing the uncanny valley in terms of voice generation. So you could actually try that demo right now. I don't think you have. It's called sesame.app, I think. And on their website, they have a demo for a male voice and a female voice. And it sounds exactly, it's a conversational model. You can have like a front and back conversation. It's not very smart. Like you can't ask it technical questions and expect to answer, but you will feel that it's almost human-like. Not even almost. Like I honestly could not tell. You can have an emotional conversation with it. That's there. So again, like, moving away from the code a little bit, AI is really revolutionizing everything.
I have heard of voice engines like the ones that you mentioned, like Sesame, and it has 3 levels of voicings. There is standard, neural, and generative, where the generative is the most realistic ones. And you can implement these using agentic AI into models that will do both speech to text and text to speech. Right, and we have also heard of YouTube videos that are completely AI generated, that are making around thousands of dollars, that just run as an automated process for people as passive income. So yeah, AI is doing very well, but the question begs: are our jobs gone then? Are we unemployed?
No, I think for the next couple of years, you've been in a couple of 3 a.m. debug sessions, like caffeine filled and just pure rage. I think that's going to transition into you standing over your desk yelling at your AWS accounts, no, that's not right, fix it. And it's going to reply, forgive me, master, for I have failed you again.
These LLMs are also passing the Turing test. Have you heard of the Turing test?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you are talking to an artificially intelligent system, if the human can figure out whether or not the artificially intelligent system is artificially intelligent or not, that is the Turing test. And now I think practically every single web service uses chatbots for their customer support, right? And you can never tell whether or not it is a human being or a chatbot. A lot of times these Zomato delivery fail, and we just yell or cuss out at them, and you just get an automated response, and you never know what's going on. So AI is progressing to both generate code and generate content in a very exponential way.
I have had so many Zomato deliveries failed, and because they're always at like 3 a.m., so you know you won't get to talk to a person, and especially eat sure. So those deliveries honestly never come on time, and it's always like 3 hours later. I'm yelling at an AI bot, which is like, you can file for a refund, but you can't file for a refund. So stuff like that does happen a lot. But what's interesting is that you're gonna be like a conversational coder. So you can actually voice command your own laptop to do things. There are softwares out there like Warmwind OS. It was released a few months ago. So it's a complete OS that is controlled by an AI. Okay, so an LLM will actually do everything, including opening your Gmail, the Gmail app in your laptop, and writing an email. It can do everything. You can have routine tasks as well. So it doesn't feel like much, honestly, on an OS level, but if you think about it, it's just a slight increase in the intelligence of the user experience, and it actually works wonderfully well. So they have integrated the Word software of the OS, the email account, the email app of the OS, and it's honestly, the UI and everything, the whole thing looks actually pretty good. While we're on the topic of AI integrated software, IDEs these days, like VS Code has been the master IDE for like what feels like to be generations at this point, right? Since VS Code is open source, Windsurf and Cursor are like actually valued at billions of dollars, not even millions. This is billions with a capital B. Windsurf was sold at like $3 billion to OpenAI. So absolutely bananas. What these people are doing is just taking the open source VS Code infrastructure and integrating multiple AI APIs in there, right? So user can actually select whatever AI model they want the code to to be generated by, and that's pretty much it. Everything else is just bare bone VS Code. So it just really makes you think, like, where is this all going? You know?
So now that we have explained the power of all these tools, the power of AI, and all of these tools that help with development, what would you say for a new person in the industry? What would be the best ways for them to equip themselves? What tools would they have to use to set themselves ahead of developers?
Setting yourself ahead of developers at an entry level would be quite the leap. You would have to be a prodigy for that. This is not to like, kill anybody's spirits, but people have been in this field for years, and it is incredibly hard for them to stay relevant, right? Because this is a very fast-paced field. We are seeing revolutions by revolutions every week. Just last week, GitHub Spec-Kit, right? We just talked about. So it's incredibly hard to stay relevant as is, even with experience. So you're not going to be surpassing anybody, but you can get a good footing in the field by just losing your pride a little bit and getting a, Copilot subscription. And this is not a plug, but getting paid subscriptions for really good quality LLMs and tools in general, either Copilot or if it's a Grok subscription, whatever it is, just get it, because the world is moving. Either you can move with it, or you can just stand back and be like, that's not real coding. Because there are a lot of people that go like, okay, if you're using AI, you're not a real coder, which is partially fair to say, but come on, it is still coding, right? Like, a lot of people have told me, if you're using AI to code, you're not a real coder, you're a vibe coder, which is as good as being a non-technical person, apparently. While that's partially true, I 100% agree with that. Any random civilian out of a technical field, completely not knowing anything, can still
create code. But having that technical knowledge helps you be a better programmer using those AI tools, right? Because this is the world we live in now. Times are changing. The best practices have evolved, right? If you just try to sit and be like, I'm going to be a real coder, I'm not going to use any AI tools, then you can sit and write 20 import statements before you start actually working on your business logic. That makes you a real coder, fine. That maybe make you probably the best coder, but it also makes you slow, which is arguably worse, especially in this economy, in this explosive time of technological innovations. This is literally a software renaissance that we're experiencing right now.
Yes, I agree with that. Even if you are using AI tools to code or to develop or to create anything, knowing what to ask is one of the most important things in vibe coding. So I think the technical knowledge is really, really necessary when you are trying to use AI tools to develop. But again, knowing how you want the LLM to design your architecture or your application, right, or your database, that is one of the most important aspects of vibe coding. And the knowledge that it requires to do that is just almost as extensive as learning coding itself, right? So I would say that the jobs right now are not gone, but the job descriptions are updated, right?
100%. Job descriptions are definitely different. Because code generation may be simpler, but making sure that your code is actually secure, efficient, that's hard. If you that's actually the difference between like a amateur vibe coder and an actual programmer using AI to code. Because vibe coder will be like, build me this application, and that's it, right? But an actual programmer would be like, okay, make sure you use authentication tokens, JWT tokens, make the APIs like this, fast API, not Flask API. It will be a little bit more inclusive of the knowledge of a regular programmer, which is necessary, honestly, because in the starting days, you and I have tried to do the vibe coding, like, okay, do this. It never works. Never works out, honestly. Maybe like once in 100 times. Maybe if the task is simple enough, it will get it right. But if you're just sitting there, giving it a simple prompt, and then just iterating through the process, be like, meh, it doesn't work, fix it. That's not coding. You could call it vibe coding, but I don't think that's coding at all. Plus, AI generated code and software needs your understanding of the infrastructure for security. It actually does, for efficiency and security. You can ask it how to make this infrastructure, efficient or secure or whatever. But you can't just expect it to implement it by itself. That's, I think, a key factor. And you do have to test your code. I cannot stress this enough. Whatever code you are generating using AI, you have to absolutely test it.
Okay. So now that we have discussed about all of these AI tools, what are the dangers of using these? What guardrails do we have to use? How are we supposed to safeguard ourselves?
Use AI as a over-enthusiastic intern instead of a scapegoat that you can just offload the work to. I would say that is an important distinction to make in the use of AI. Well, I think this is all the time we have.
Yeah, so thanks for watching. And if your MCP server asks for your Wi-Fi password, maybe shut down, touch grass, and come see us in the next episode.